being at the bottom for me was one of the greatest seasons of life because I said, I have nothing else to lose. I've lost everything. There's nothing else to lose. So it gave me this incredible courage to try different things. And I remember writing a list of my biggest fears because I was like, man, fear is crippling me. It's making me feel less than, weaker, small, not enough. So I need to overcome these fears. And a mentor told me, you're allowing fear to control and consume your life. And when you start to navigate and overcome them and embrace them, they won't consume you anymore. You won't be held back.
Fear is driving right now.
Fear's holding you back. Yeah. And you need courage to be willing to look silly in front of everyone and embarrass yourself and fall on your face. You need to act like a child again. When you learn to walk, you didn't fall once and say, oh, I look like an idiot. I'm not going to try to walk anymore. We fell thousands of times. We bumped ourselves. We hit ourselves. We were goofy looking. But people used to celebrate us back then when we'd try. But as adults, people stop celebrating you when you try, unless you're around the right environment and the right people. I'm assuming hopefully you guys celebrate each other when you try things and fail. None of us ever said, these babies, when we were babies, we never said maybe this walking thing isn't for us.
Yeah.
We never said, oh, I fell 100 times. Maybe I should stop trying.
I'm going to take the couch as a lifestyle. Yeah.
I'm just going to crawl the rest of my life as an adult, right? We didn't say that. But somehow a lot of us say that to ourselves when we fall or fail once or twice in one thing, or someone criticizes us or says something weird about us as adults. And so I had to learn how to be a child again in a lot of ways. And so I wrote down some of my biggest fears. One was public speaking.
What?
Public speaking.
No way.
I could not stand in front.
I don't believe what?
I could not stand in front of two people without sweating, stuttering, and forgetting everything I wanted to say. I could not. Here's why. Because when I'm getting to school, I don't know if they do this in Mexico, but it's terrifying in the USA.
They
say,
make
class,
you? Yes.
stand up and stand in front of the room and read aloud chapter 1. Okay, let me open this up and read aloud. And I would sit there and I could not read a sentence.
Story, yeah.
All the way through high school. I would struggle. I would sweat. I'm like getting nervous putting myself back in this situation. I'd be like, it was just so intense. And then I would look up and everyone's laughing. So it was just like, okay, I can't do this. Everyone's going to laugh at me because I'm not good at this. So it was a struggle. So I said, I cannot allow being in front of an audience of 1 or 1,000 to hold me back anymore. So that was one of my fears. I wrote this down. The next fear was, believe it or not, salsa dancing. Salsa dancing was a massive fear of mine. Now, let me tell you why. And salsa dancing is a big part of my life today.
Now?
Today.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you. So growing up in Ohio, I wasn't around much
salsa.
Latin people, culture, music. I didn't experience this. But when I was in college, right before I got injured, a year before, I was living in an apartment above a music venue. There was a little studio above this music hall that my brother got me for $250 a month to be in this little room. And they would play jazz music downstairs. But once a week, they had a live salsa band. And all the salseros would come out in Ohio, and everyone would gather.
The 7 salseros that
No,
live
it
in
was
Ohio.
packed. It was packed. There's a lot of Latinos in Columbus, Ohio. It's packed. And so they would all come out, and I remember I was like upstairs one night, and I hear this music below me. I could hear it, right? And so I go downstairs, and I'm standing there. I'm just like in awe because there's all these Latinos, and I'm like a foot taller than everyone. I'm the only gringo in this dance floor, right? Now, I never went on the dance floor. For 3 months, every single week, I would go down and I would just feel the music. I was just like, this is incredible. What is this? The passion, the people, the connection, like the energy.
Oh, this is precious.
It was incredible, right? And it wasn't a sexual thing. It was more just like a fun community. It was like there was no picking people up or hitting on people, or maybe there's 1 or 2 weirdos every now and then, but it was more of like an art.
Yeah, like a passion.
It was like an art form. And I was like, wow, this is like fascinating. But it was the most terrifying and intimidating thing that I'd ever seen. Now, I'm 22, 23 years old, and there's like, grown women who like look amazing. They know how to dance, and like all these men are dancing. I was just like, what is it? It's a whole nother language. Mm-hmm. I barely speak English, let alone trying to learn a salsa language. Felt like it was impossible. I put this down on my fear list. So I start writing these things down on my list of fears. And I tell myself, if I continue to live with this list of fears, I will not be able to fulfill my potential because I'll be living in fear and I won't have the courage to at least try these things and fail. So I start going down to the salsa club every week for 3.5 months. And eventually, some of the girls were nice. They start saying, hey, who are you? Why don't you come dance? And I said, no, I don't want to make you look bad. So I would just sit in the corner and watch like a weirdo, right? I was like the weird gringo guy sitting back there watching.
The tall
weird guy. I mean, I was nice, but I was just like always afraid. And eventually one girl grabs me and she pulls me on the dance floor. And I start dancing. I'm sweating. And she's like, okay, just look down at my feet and follow my steps. And I'm stepping on her. I'm bumping into people. I'm just like a big, mess, right? And after a couple minutes of this, she touches my chin. She has me look up. She says, look up at me. Look me in the eyes. So I look at her. I'm sweating. I'm like so nervous. I just feel embarrassed. And she says, Lewis, look around. No one is looking at you.
No one cares.
No one cares. And maybe one or two people were like, oh, what is this guy? But they're just focused on their own dance and their own thing. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm all in. I realized like no one cares. I'm all in on this. And so I went salsa dancing 3, 4, 5 times a week for months. I found a mentor. He taught me how to salsa dance. I found a speaking coach. He taught me how to speak in public. I found someone to help teach me how to read and write. I wrote my first book by 25 years old by someone else. So all these things I was afraid of, I said, I need to invest in learning how to walk in the things that make me most afraid. And it was the greatest season of life when I say I was kind of at the bottom because I had time to try a lot of these things. I had time to fail. And the things that I was most afraid of that held me back are some of the things that have given me the greatest opportunities in my life.
From the beginning. Hit it, boys.